20th of December. We'll have some demos.
I'm gonna do a very quick demo on the notification stuff.
And then we'll do some topics. The last 2 weeks talk about fluid, but I think I can finish something and I'll show it when it's done. So I won't talk about fluid. Then orchard and status orchard. We didn't do anything on triage. Well, we didn't have anything to do for triage last week. For orchard core, I will go back filter on main.
There's also on the topics, there's a couple PRs I'd like to get some feedback on if we have time.
Well, 13. Okay, so this WidgetsListPart editor. Oh, there is no model here. So it's dynamic. So could this be different? Interesting.
Yeah, it could be null is what the issue was. I think we shouldn't be using dynamic, but since we are, that's the issue there.
Can move, can insert, can be. There is always a way to not use a dynamic, even if it's a shape, and use a strongly typed shape. Okay, good. Fix 12.944. Let's fix 12.944.
See, that default value could be a string, and we just had to wrap it around with a and give us a JavaScript error.
Technically,
well, there's a you kind of do. It's you're passing a value. Unless you escape it. Yeah, you're saying you should probably escape it.
You should probably definitely escape it. So here it's a row because I believe we know
it's
that.
A JSON.
Okay, so we pass the JSON directly. But here, what type can it be? A string, an integer?
It can be anything. It's a string, definitely.
If it's a string, then someone can write JavaScript in it, and then you can break the thing, and then so that's why we need to do HTTP utility.javascript encode of that thing inside then string. Yep. Well, the risk is limited, but you could say with that I can inject JavaScript, so I can do cross-site forgery, whatever, CSI, cross-site request forgery. The same way we have sanitization, then it's no more sanitized here, so it needs to be escaped. JavaScript escaped. We have some examples. Another option is what we do usually to prevent JavaScript escape is write it in a hidden input or hidden div, something like that, hidden input attribute. And then here with JavaScript, we say read the hidden input. Because when you do in Razor, then it will be HTML encoded, and then from JavaScript, it will be read as is. So it can't mess up. So that's better, actually. That's the recommended way to use an input hidden or a div hidden or something, a div something like that, or input attribute, whatever. And grab the value from JavaScript, like dot element by ID dot value.
That makes sense. I'll get that changed.
Fix module template startup namespaces. Okay, fixing the templates. That is surprising. So I saw this issue and I looked, and there is the default usings, the implicit usings. So I don't know why it's necessary here. Remove ShellDescriptor dependency on YesSql.ISession. So abstraction such that it doesn't require YesSql if you don't want to. Fix content filters alignment. Content filters alignment. Okay, UI stuff. AddUsers extension methods, so refactoring such that we don't call that explicitly, but we do AddUsers. So it's nicer in the code. It's more like what I experienced does. Update functional test connection string because I didn't squash. Oh, I changed it on main directly. Okay, and then I merged in this PR. So because the functional tests are using SQL Server and they need to disable encrypt because of the new client, my version 2.15, and this PR was failing because of that. So updating YesSql to use the new kind of queries that are optimized and faster, at least for lots of content items. I don't know about the standard website or small data if it's faster or not. At least for more data, it's faster. So that is it. Topics demos from Mike. Notifications update.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Using one screen. So a while back we demoed this feature that allow you to enable notifications. So if you go to notification here, you'll see two new features. One provides you a notification. Then another way is that you can deliver notifications through email. So I enabled those two features. Currently, the notifications are derived from workflow, but you have access through code to be able to send notification using the notification manager. But so just to show you how this works, I created a workflow here that reacts to some events. And so this right here, whenever a blog post is published, we notify the owner. So if you look here, there's the summary and there's the body of the notification that's being sent. And there's another one, whenever we delete a blog, we also notify the owner. There is nothing fancy about the notification here. It's just generic messages for the test. And here, whenever we update a user profile, we can also send a notification. But the fact that these are workflow driven, you can just hook just into about anything. There is a menu up here that you will see that will allow you to access notifications. So just to show you how this kind of all work real fast, I'm gonna go to content items, actually here, and create a blog post. And we're just gonna call it test 3. Whoops, I don't know what I did, but it created it. And as you can see here, your blog was published, and that's because of that trigger that we have in the workflow. And then if you go to all notifications here, you'll see a list of all notifications. So you'll see this one in like a yellowish color because this is not red. As you can see here, you can mark it as red, and when you do, the color goes back. You have actions here that you can say mark as unread if you don't want to read it. Similarly here, you can do that. If you want, you can mark all as read. Hit OK. You can sort notifications as well. You can show just the read or the unread. So you can filter that down as well. What else? Yeah, so another thing is when you go to a user, if you enable that the email notification under user, you can actually edit the preferences. So you can opt in or opt out of email notification. So if you want to opt out, you can just take it off. And if you want email notification, you can. And so this is all the standard or basics. At some point, we can create some more settings to allow us to, you know, receive one email every hour with all the changes and things like that. We could also put like a create real-time communication. So whenever a notification is sent, it'll appear here automatically. I haven't did any of that yet, but obviously that's something that we can implement down the line. But for right now, you have the notification portal where you can filter through your notification. You can mark them read, unread, and so on and so forth. And you can deliver messages through email or web notification, which is here. And we can always implement any additional notification, like a push notification to like a phone app. We can do push notification through SMS, whatever it is we need. We just need to implement the provider that provide the delivery mechanism. That's it. Let me know if you have any questions or any kind of feedback. You know, let me know if you have any questions.
It looks like a feature I would have implemented. The way it is done with the checkboxes and the filters and the workflow. It's beautiful.
Mike, are notifications a content type?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are notifications a content type?
Ah.
I don't think I understand the question.
No, it's not a content type. It's like a custom source provider.
Yeah, it's not. It's a notification, and we even store them in a different table than the document table. It has its own collection, so it stores separately.
Oh, and it's not even a content item. Maybe that's yeah, like an item is not a content. Well, a notification is not a content item. I didn't read the question this way. I thought like, is email a content type? Is SMS a content type? And no, I mean, so that you have notifications and then they are sent through as emails, as SMS, as whatever. That's a thing, but they are not even content items. I see. They are just records in a table. Documents,
yes, but you can also link them. So if you go back to the workflow, maybe I didn't show this. So in here, if you edit the task, you can actually link it. So you see how you can link it with a custom URL. Like if the user click on it, you send them to this custom URL. You can also say link it to a view content. So when the user click on it, it'll take you to that content which was published from the workflow. So it's not a content item, but you can link it to a content item using things like this workflow.
So that's a common pattern with workflows, to be able to link to the triggering thing. And I'm afraid you re-implemented something parallel to what's already existing, which is liquid and inject links to content items and things like this. Yeah, like you should actually have the fields in your form be templated such that users can use liquid, right? And then you don't need to say anything like link type or whatever. You just inject a URL or whatever you want to whatever you want. If you want a URL to a content item, you just inject a tag that says view the content item or even edit the content item. You know, things like this. You can do
Well,
that.
this right here already support.
So then you don't need the link type.
Yeah, maybe we don't, because we already can say it contains HTML, and we can inject any liquid we want.
If the medium of the notification, like email is not a link, but if, like, I don't know, if some notification is a link somehow, that when it's received, then maybe you want the form to have something like what is a URL, still templated. But here it's not the case. You have summary, you have title, you have body. So all these fields should be templated, and then they can be a link if you want. They can be URL if you want. It can be anything you want. I think I mentioned that last time, but what would be nice here would be to have a view per channel. Like if you receive an email, the text might be much bigger than if you receive a text. That could be solved actually if you have in your workflow that is the name of the channel. So in the notification, when the notification is generated, the text of notification, you could check that you could set the value such that the template itself will be able to know if it's rendered for an email, for text, for whatever. That might change the way you want to write the thing.
So you're saying to have a field per,
No,
like for the email, one for the
field, a property in the workflow that is set such that here in the body, you could decide to write something differently or small or big based on where it's sent. Because you agree, like the main notification factor will be email and text. Let's see that email and text, right? Like if tomorrow someone implements a text channel, SMS channel.
Yeah, it's a provider.
Yeah, then actually currently it will be the same form, right? With title, summary, body. But when you send the text, there is just a body. There is no title, there is no summary, there is just a body. So you could say, well, you don't have to send the title and the summary, that's fine. But then the body also in an email might be big. You could include the images and everything, but maybe in the text for the notification, you don't want to send such thing. You might want to send just a URL, for instance, like blog post updated and the URL, and users can click on that. So maybe the user might want to change, well, the dev might want to change what's sent when it's an email and what is sent when it's an SMS through this form. So if they could have, at least in the body, if destination equals SMS, like if notification.provider equals SMS or notification.provider equals email, then write that and write that. Might be interesting. If there are multiple,
basically have a body for each notification provider. If
you can do that, that's perfect. If you can otherwise provide a property in the model that is passed to the body, then you can have a single body that will have a if then else inside the body to generate different things. So either you have two bodies and the user doesn't need to do a if else, or you have a single body and the dev will need to do a if else to see where is it sent, SMS or email. If you can have multiple bodies, I think that's better because you can, it's easier, and then users can say, I want to register for email and text if they want, right? That's what you supported.
Yeah, we can add the multiple fields.
So if you can do that, that's perfect. Then when you save the notification, then you have, that would be perfect in my opinion.
Sounds good.
I don't think you need the link type, though. You can inject it as a templated thing. That's much more flexibility. That's documented. That's, yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we can iterate over that. I think that's perfect. Yeah, I think the goal of the demo was to say, do we accept it in our core? Because there is a PR. And last time we gave some feedback. Last time you actually said, Sebastian, I have feature, you won't like it. But no, I like it. I find super useful. I'm sure Soteris will agree, super useful. Good. What else? Mike said you need to look at some PRs.
And I have a topic in
Go
the
on.
chat.
Oh, topics.
Yeah.
Topics. Iteration from me to make it domain. We don't have a rewrite module like we used to in Orchard 1, and there is a middleware in ASP.NET. So either you write in your startup class, you use the middleware and you do your rewrite rules, or someone creates a module that will inject the ASP.NET rewrite rules middleware and configure it through the admin. Because there is a format that is exactly like in Orchard 1, which is Apache rewrite rules.
Yeah, that was the question. So is it worth to write a module?
Yes, and it should be super easy because it's just one body in the settings with all the rewrite rules. And then when Orchard starts up and the module registers the middleware, you feed this body or this setting into the rewrite rules module because it accepts. Or you can have lots of rules, like a list of rules that you can reorder and edit. What's the UI that we have like this? That we can have we have it multiple select or whatever. I'm sure we have fields like multi-text field where you can have multiple lines and reorder them. And each line should be a rule and you can reorder them. And this rule is in the Apache rewrite rule format. And that's supported by the middleware. That would be nice.
Okay, and this should be per tenant, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, and you could have also custom settings like you mentioned, like redirect the to make it domain or always redirect HTTPS. Oh, we might have this one already. The HTTPS automatic redirection, we have it in the security feature. But the redirection, we don't have it. So yeah, that might be good.
Okay, thank you.
PRs.
So PR 12627.
We should talk about this one also.
12627. Oh, well, if you want to look at others, you can go ahead. But
No, I will open the ones 1, 2, 6, 7. And
12683.
Okay. The same person. Interesting.
So this one, we demoed this a while ago, and we were hoping for more feedback to see if anyone interested in it, but we haven't got really any feedback. It's not really breaking anything. It's just adding more flexibility for whoever's using it around the admin.
You are a salesman because yes, it's adding more flexibility for the user. It's adding less flexibility for the developer because the developer has to handle that.
If the developer isn't if the developer doesn't want to adhere to these changes, then they just ignore using them.
We can't do that. We can't say people, you don't have to adhere to supporting right to left because we want all the pages to support right to left. Same thing here. You can't say to a user, hey, look at that, all the titles are on the left, but on this page they're on the top because the developer didn't care. And like, people will find an issue and someone will have to implement it. So the developer will say, I don't care.
If you don't explicitly set the options, nothing change, right? The outcome is the same. But
what I'm saying is
to add the options.
Yes, and that's the issue. Because we add an option, we need to support the option. If someone selects the options, then the option needs to be followed. If it's not followed, then there is a bug. If there is a bug, we need to fix it. So if the developer said, I don't care about get label CSS class, get start CSS class, get end CSS class, and not these classes, then we, owner of the product, or someone will have to fix that because someone said, I don't support that, or no. So yes, that's more code, more work for the developers to have to handle the classes and the new HTML to support both ways, label on the right, left, and label on the top. If there is an option, it's a bug if the option is not implemented or doesn't work correctly as expected.
Yeah, but this PR changes everything that we ship out of the box to support such a thing, right? So if someone wants to use it with their custom modules, they would have to adhere to these things. But I mean, out of the box, Orchard Core support everything, all these parts that we want.
The first point I mentioned was it's more work for the developers. It's still the case. Developers, when they do a new feature, will have to handle these classes because they will have to handle the two things. So yeah, that's my concern. So at what point do we stop making things more complicated for developers or for people to understand how to develop something?
I mean, the only problem is that if you want such a behavior, you know, like right now, you can't really do it without create every single part, you know, every view in Orchard Core to do such a thing because we're basically kind of stuck with the admin, right? So I think that's where the issues.
Yeah. If it makes things simpler, I'd rather have some tagging that doesn't have to be dynamic, just requires some admin CSS to move stuff on the left, move stuff on the top. I don't know if it's doable. But things that can change this way, it will impact the UI when we develop also the UI, like, I don't know, spacing or grouping, whatever. I'm not sure, but it can just make things harder to build the UI because it has to work with something on the left. That's a concern. So I'm not deciding, but what you want here is to have people say, should we move Orchard there or should we not take it? So you want a decision. So how can we do that? Should we ping people and say, if you don't say anything, we'll take that and it will be on you if people start complaining? Or please tell us what you want to do. Do you think it's a good thing? So yeah, so you need to do a vote at this point to say, do we merge it or not, right? Because, and if people don't care and don't say anything, then let's merge it. then they won't be able to complain. We say, we asked you and we didn't care. So, and if they don't say anything, and even 10 months after that, it means, well, that was fine because everyone seems to cope with it. How do we do that? There is a discussion, but there is no poll. Who's in the meeting? Who should vote on that? Who should decide? Users, contributors, and maintainers. I don't write use. I will still voice my opinion based on what I think will happen, but I have the same vote size. So I want that. I will write down today's meeting. If people want to find this meeting and this conversation, that. So vote. I could have a voice. We can't say Mike, you can't vote because you make the. So who needs to vote? I will say, and I will ask, how do we vote? We just ask people to write a comment there. Right? It's okay to be public.
I think Jasmine one time created like some sort of a poll in GitHub for another issue. Maybe he can. I think he did.
And do you know about that?
Discussions. You start a discussion.
Oh, you can also have plus minus. Yeah, you don't need a discussion here. We can use that. We can use that. Okay, say I don't want it, I want it, and then it's public. We have the list of people who. Yeah, that's a good way to do. Okay. What would Elon Musk do? He would do a Twitter poll, right? To say, okay, but here, please use thumbs up and thumbs down on the, what's the name here? It's called reactions. Not a new comment, please. Not on a new comment. Yeah, so you can add comments and say whatever you want, but please vote on this specific comment so we can count the thing.
We might need to put a date so we can kind of review this again. When do you want to review it?
Yeah, as soon as next week or in 2 weeks, because there is holidays and people will say, oh, I didn't watch the meeting. Oh, they need to be able to watch meeting and react. So say 2 weeks. That's fine.
Sounds good.
But honestly, if someone hasn't voted next week, I'm sure there won't be anything more. So at least give it a few days after the meeting is available from Gabor, because people will see that only at that point. So limit for the vote. We haven't done a vote like in years. For your own knowledge, Mike, because I believe everyone else here is, everyone else is super old in the team here. But Mike, you're the newest member. And for your information, when we started Orchard 12 years ago, but it started only, let's say, 10 years ago, this thing, we had a steering committee, an elected steering committee, people who would decide, like have votes and say, we do that, we don't do that. Things like this. And yeah, and also more important things too. And this steering committee would also be elected every year. And then at some point, there was less people working on the project than the size of the steering committee. So we're like, well, there is no point of doing a steering committee. So I don't know who were the last one steering committee. I believe Antoine. Oh, it's not here today. Antoine was there. There was Benedek, myself, Bertrand, Piotr was there also at some point. Probably Sipke. Yeah. So Thierry, you were never on the steering committee. I believe you never candidate for that. So the vote will be what's the day in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I mean, I just think this is important because of the way how we structure the admin. And if you're really doing an admin, like if you're relying a lot on your admin screens, just make a lot nicer to be able to utilize the width of your screen, especially if you have a lot of fields listed or whatever. It just makes it so much more flexible. And I think just because admin theme is really hard to change, you know, just making it as flexible as possible, you know, is ideal, I think.
For that. So I will also tell people to look at the changes that are required. I want to do a review to that example. Yeah, so add these kind of things. Okay. That's not hard, right? Just have to think about it and ensure that it works everywhere. Because if there is one in the middle that is not done, then, oh, we missed that. We need to fix it. But it's like everything. It's not the first thing that we have to care of for the UI to be very nice. Like you do, like fixing all these sizes and alignments and thinking about RTL and everything. Limit for the vote will be that in 2 weeks.
2023, Sebastian.
What? Yeah, no, yeah.
2023.
Dude, are you ready? So 2023. Let me check something. Yeah, it will be a Tuesday, so it will be the new year. But if it was on, yeah, it will be on Sunday.
And this is US format, right? Date format.
Yes. So it will be January 1st, no, 3rd. Where do you, so something like that? Is that how you write a date, Mike? I don't remember.
Sure.
That works. You don't know, so you say sure. Good job, Mike.
That's how you write a date.
So limit for the vote. Okay, good. Thank you, Gabor. Gabor will mention that in a blog post or Twitter or whatever. Thank you. This one I want to talk about, same thing. Same kind of conversation. We could vote about it. Let's do a vote meeting. We should do a meeting where we just have votes and people just vote. And like, you know, when you go to the ballots and you vote for everything at the same time in the States. So here, so it's kind of, we talked about it during triage last week. So Thierry is suggesting these changes, which are removing the methods and the properties that were marked obsolete a long time ago, like at least 2 years ago. But in the last 2 years, we never released what we call a major release that is breaking everything, because we do some little breaking changes, but we always have migration path. Like you can always upgrade without much pain. This one is removing obsolete methods. So in theory, we should release it. We should do it, remove these obsolete methods on a major release. And so Jasmine said that first, and we talked about it. I'm like, yeah, personally, I'm like, I'm sure it won't break anyone. I agree. I'm sure it won't break anyone because who is still building their stuff, ignoring the warnings, knowing that there is a mitigation for any of these obsolete methods. It's not like, oh, you can't do that anymore. It's like, if you want to do that, please use this property instead, or please use, you see, that instead. So that's why I was like, let's do that. And because it's been a long time, 2 years. So if you haven't updated in 2 years, then if you're updating now and you're seeing that, I mean, that's the list of your concerns, probably. So that's why. But yeah, Isham is reminding us that, yeah, it should be a major release. So I don't know. Let's vote. I'm okay to merge it. I think it won't break anyone. But if someone can comment on that, that would be great to say we should only do a major release. So keep it because it doesn't hurt anyone. It's just, yeah, code cleaning. It can only hurt people to remove it, right? That's the idea. It can only hurt. And if something can happen, it will happen. So just talking about this one, but I won't touch it. So I will let other people merge or say don't merge. Fill this one, database options, like table prefix schema, entity column, document table. We said we would do that. No, didn't we say we would do that right after 1.5?
So
Because
yes, we did, but you had a concern. Your suggestion was I wasn't sure what we need to do, but you weren't happy or big fan of adding these options on the setup screen, even if the connection isn't configured. So, okay, if that is the route we want, we just need to know what do we need to do so that way I can get it done, because we have other PRs waiting on this PR that we need to merge. So I just need to finish with it. Like if we just want to keep the setup screen clean, we could take these out of the setup screen, but keep them in the tenant. When you add a tenant, you want to be able to configure these things. I mean, I'm okay with changing that. I just need to know what do we want to do so we can do it.
And I can remember that's a good compromise to do that in the tenant screen, not in the step screen here. And still, that should not be, I don't think it should be pertinent. It could just be a global settings. If not, just the new ones use big integers. I don't think we should expose that in the UI at all. It's, yeah.
I mean, if it's optional or if it's a configurable thing, I mean, why not make it a UI? Because someone might want to change it.
You don't want. Yes, why not? But it's a balance between flexibility and complexity. You don't want to expose everything to users, to bother them, to let them think or feel like it's complicated and they have to decide for everything, when it really doesn't matter for them if we can take a good decision by default. As I say, use big integer. Yes, it's a little bit slower, but dude, we are using YesSql and we are not using raw SQL. I'm sure the difference won't even be visible or measurable at the levels we do websites. So
well, so we could make the optional like collapse by default, and if you really know what you're doing, you can expand it and you can see more options.
But no, because you don't know, so you will want to expand, and then you will see that in your face. If it's in the configuration file, fine, because we have a way to tell. If people ask, how do I do that? They care about that. Then we can tell them you have an option to do that. It doesn't have to be in your face every time you see a tenant. That's my concern. It should be a site-wide setting. Like it can be in a configuration file. If it wasn't even in a configuration file, I wouldn't even care. I would be like, sure, fine, it can be a default in or true. I will not do it in the UI. And I believe people have said that too.
I mean, if you think about it, right? If you're storing everything, like let's say you have multiple instances and you store this on, let's say Azure Blob, right? Mm-hmm. And now anytime you want to add a tenant, you're really saying add a tenant. Then
no. I didn't say that. I'm saying a global configuration. You set once. So before you deploy your site to Azure, you have defined this configuration file once. And for all the tenants, it's done this way because there is no, I don't remember, maybe you convinced me otherwise, but I believe that once you, as the owner of the websites and the tenants, you decide that you want to use big integers or 32-bit integers, you have decided that, and you think it's best for all the tenants. And it's not a pertinent feature. It's a global feature for all the sites.
Well, if we have to, so right now, let's say you have 10 tenants that are using 1.5. So 1.5 is already created with an integer.
And we talked about it. Right, and we said it will be for the new tenants. For the new tenants, it will be your setting. For the old one, you don't change it. Done.
Yeah, but then let's say you want to change it back, right? So having it per options, it just makes more sense because you basically can control. And, if you don't want to, I mean, once you change it, so once I create a tenant with a big integer, that's it. I should put that in the configuration so that way I know how this function or how this tenant functions. And if I changed it or if I create it as an integer, then I have to store it so I know it's an integer. We can create a global setting and that will impact new, but we still have to kind of change it. I don't know. I think.
So do you say that to be able to support big integers, we have to store it somewhere?
You store it in the shell settings of each tenant.
For each tenant, we need to know it?
Yes, so when you're building the connection or you're building new indexes or whatever, you're utilizing the same type that you used for this tenant. Otherwise, you could have a mix match, integer and big integer, and that's a problem, obviously. So you can't have that.
I don't even remember how it works in YesSql. Use legacy identity column. So that's something we have to in high configuration. I see. You have to store the state here.
Yes, and so we need to store it in the shell settings so we know how to build the connection every single time we initialize the tenant.
That I don't follow. The creating a connection, I don't understand.
Well, when you build the options, the configuration, the configuration for YesSql,
okay,
you need to configure it with the proper
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So it's not okay. I was confused by the word connection. It's a configuration. Okay. Yes, so we need a state because all the statements need to follow what's already there. So we need to store that. And that has to be pertinent as a site setting. Good. Is that how you did that? Site setting, yeah, probably. Okay, so shell setting, site setting, something. Okay, so we have that new field. That's perfect. And okay, so yeah, I still think that it could be a global setting. So I'm not disgracing from that. A global setting, a single one setting set by the user. But when we create a tenant, we store this value in this field. If this field doesn't exist, it's the old one. It's the integer 32.
Yes, and that's how it is behaving with this PR.
And that's perfect. But so that we can still disagree on just where do we set and how do we set it. My opinion is it should be set once for all the tenants, aka all the new tenants, but once in the file that you upload when you upload it to Azure or when you deploy it, a global setting. That is, what is the identity column size of new tenants? Existing tenants will use whatever they're using. New tenants will use whatever this is set. And when a tenant is created, then it stores the value with what it has been created, and it can't change it anymore. And if you want to change your setting for the next new tenant, you can still do that by changing the settings in the file. Doesn't have to be a UI. Nobody would do that ever if it's not deciding when they set up their website. And we should have a default. We said we won't change the default right now, but maybe the next version we might decide to have a new default, which will be big integers. I still don't think we should have a UI for that. Or again, to keep it simple.
Well, the same thing also with Schema, right? Schema, it's like the prefix. So, you know, if you want to provide a schema, you can't make that global. Well, you could.
That I agree, and so that I would agree to have it in the tenant's creation, because we need to have it different. It needs to be a new value for each tenant, right? If we want to use a schema-based multi-tenancy. That's why we added this feature, like Jasmine made it in YesSql, so we can have each tenant in a different schema for maintenance of the system. So this has to be in the UI. That I agree. I would prefer to have it just in the tenant creation, the same way we have. Oh, so today we have So today we have the prefix of the table. Wherever we have the prefix of the table, it's fine to have the schema also. So I'm not discussing. So if we have table prefix in the front end, we'll have also table schema for whatever database supports that, right? Good. Name of the document table, same thing. It should be a global thing. It doesn't have to be pertinent. It can be a global. It can be a global setting if you want. Fine. But set once for all the tenants, for all the new tenants created, and you have to store it in the settings. It's kind of sad because that makes all the query need to read this setting, but you ended that, so whatever. Let's write it down.
So basically, in summary, you're saying that the integer, the column type, and the prefix, not the prefix, I'm sorry, the separator, and the document table, those you prefer those to be a global settings, and we basically use them. So if someone changed them, we will still read them from the global settings and store them, right?
We'll still read them from the
We'll read them from the global and then store them in the site settings.
We read them from the global on the creation of the tenant, but each tenant has these values stored for themselves in the shell settings.
Got it. Okay. You just basically, instead of you want it to be read from the UI, you can just read it from a store settings.
Schema separator. Separator. Why would we change that? Why? You have reasons. Because I will not understand them unless I'm provided with a good reason, but if it's there, it's there. What did you mention? Table name. Wow.
Table separator. Yep. Table separator, and then the document table name, and then the type, the identifier type. Yep. That's it.
Okay. And that's it. That's my my preferred options there. Not sure if you disagree. But, okay, I think at least I'm good with the recommendation. I'm not sure about you, but that's my wish. For Christmas, I wish that. That's the only thing I want. Okay, cool. Mike, one last thing.
You want? I'm sorry.
You want to talk about something else?
I mean, if you want to, there is more PRs that.
No, it's time. We'll do that on Thursday. We can't do it. We can't do everything today.
Well, then,
and
don't ask if you're not gonna follow through. You asked me if I want anything else, and
yeah, but I was hoping you would say no, so I can, that's.
Be careful what you ask for it, because you might just get it.
And and I was thinking that usually at Christmas and New Year, like it's always like on a Tuesday or Thursday we have to skip all the meetings, but this year I think there is nothing. Yeah, it's all in the weekend, so we can work all the time. It's beautiful like that. Perfect. Sundays. Good. And even at Microsoft, we get back the Friday and the Sunday, so I will work on Tuesday and Thursday. Awesome. Thanks everyone.
See you next week.
Have a good Merry Christmas, and I will wish you Happy New Year next week. Bye-bye.
Happy Christmas. Bye.
Bye-bye.